Hello, everybody. So we are live, and I am here with Natty Hamlin, and we're going to have a discussion today about all sorts of crazy, exciting, awesome topics. I wanted to start it off though, going "Hello, Governor," but I'm trying to be nice and kind and friendly and respectful to women, even the Brits. So,
Are you sure you want to call me governor?
uh,
Isn't there a feminine version of that?
isn't it like mum?
Governor? I
Oh,
don't know.
hello, governor. Oh, mum. Hello. Are
Hello,
you prim?
mum.
Are you prim and proper today? Are you ready for an interview? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Well,
Stop
now
it.
that I've got.
You're gonna sound like Andrew Tate if you carry on.
Oh God. Oh, that doesn't sound very good.
What part of
So
the United States are you from again?
I'm from Texas, so you can totally
Right.
make fun of my accent if you want, because I have probably a Texan accent where I'm like, "Hey, everybody, how you doing?
How
I'm
you
Lance.
doing?
You know, if I was East Texan, I'd talk like this, and if I'm from the West or Center, I'd be talking more like California, man. I tell you what, but anyways, yeah.
I can try, but I don't think it will be as funny as your British accent. So thank you.
Well, that as a guy that likes to do impressions, that makes me really that's a really nice thing to say. So um so anyways, we will get started now that we had that little fun. So none of my audience knows who you are, so please tell us about yourself, Natty Hamlin. Tell us your about you, your introduction. Share the
Yeah.
world who you are.
No way. My name is Natty, and my name in the church is Mary, Theotokos Mary, and my sort of real name is Natoya, as in my name I was given at birth. And I am from the UK, originally from London, but I now live in Derbyshire, um, which is in the Midlands. Anyone who likes kind of like Pride and Prejudice, that's part of the country that I live in. And I am married and I have four children. The oldest is 10 and the youngest is 2. And I'm a classical home educator who leads a co-op with a bunch of other Christian families. And I'm kind of involved in the home ed community. And I'm also a bit of a big mouth on social media. So that's why I'm here, unfortunately.
I mean, that's where we met. We met
Yeah,
on
that's
Twitter
right.
before. Yeah, I was like, "Who is this lady? She's awesome." She's like, she's like calling out all these manosphere guys. Like, dang girl, you're.
Yeah,
Anyway, yeah.
unfortunately, this was a path that I found found myself. No, I actively chose, I guess, because I used to be a men's rights activist, unfortunately, from 2014-ish until 2020, 21. Yeah, and I became an Orthodox Christian in 2021, and the church and the teachings of the church helped me to heal and move away from the toxic mindset that you adopt if you're a men's rights activist or involved in the manosphere in any kind of way. And my kind of entry into that is that, when I did my degree at university, I wanted to be a journalist. So I did journalism, media and culture studies, and on media and culture studies, you do sociology and postmodernism and all of the kind of progressive critical theory type of approaches. And so I had to write a lot of essays about feminism. And yeah, and I had a very adverse reaction to liberal feminism, to be honest. And I was actually kind of a liberal. I grew up in a kind of atheistic home. My mom was somewhat Church of England going, but she wasn't really around. It was more just me and my dad, which is a whole other story. But
Yeah.
he's a strong atheist and left wing socialist type. And, so that was sort of my background. And I just strongly started to poke holes in this kind of patriarchy theory stuff. and all that kind of all that kind of sociology. And then this was the kind of beginning of intersectionality, because this is 2008. No, I started going to university in 2004, sorry, or 5. I graduated in 2009, right?
Yeah.
And that was a year later than I should have, and also during the recession. I am a millennial, so
Yeah.
I remember that. Anyway, so that gives a brief overview of like my background of this, but yeah, I don't know where you want to go next.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like what, I mean, so that's what got you kind of into getting into like the men's rights activist, because you were kind of like, yeah, feminism, the stuff that I'm listening to, like the stuff that I'm getting here in college, it's kind of, I think it's kind of stupid. I think it's kind of, I don't agree with it. And so, and, you know, kind of went that route where it was like, yeah, I think the men have some points that are valid in this, and I need to, I need
Yeah.
to, I need to talk about it, because it, you know, and like, not to be completely against feminist or men's rights or whatever, but like, yeah, like I think everybody should talk about that stuff, because it's like, obviously life is different. like things are different right now, and it's not like it was like in the 1950s where you could just do certain things and get away with it, like, you have to be respectful, you have to be some of this stuff. So let's see, I'm trying to think how I want to frame this one. So like, you went into that kind of deal for a good long time. What led you to becoming Orthodox?
Oh, okay. So I was going to tell you a bit more about my
Oh, you can
background that led
do
me
that.
into it. But if you want to go back to it, but I just think it might be interesting.
Yeah,
and
go
then
ahead.
maybe I can then skip a bunch of stuff. There's plenty of stories I have to tell you and information when I was a men's rights activist. Oh my gosh! But that could take up a whole podcast.
Hey, we got all the podcasts we can do. That's good. That's
so,
good content.
I mean, if you just wanted to talk about the cliff notes of what I'm trying to do, then yeah. But honestly, I'd love to go into that in more detail one day.
How about next time? Next time we'll do more of that, and this can be like your introduction or something here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That sounds
Yeah,
cool.
but what I was going to say is that like I was kind of primed in a way, in some way, and not that I don't have free will, because I very much had a kind of righteous reaction to what I was learning. Like I remember learning about liberal feminist theory, and I was like, this is kind of shallow. Like, I'm not saying that women were never repressed. Like, okay, yeah, I get that. But like, something was off for me. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I wasn't reading enough at that time. I was reading for my degree, but there was probably other things I could have gone into that would have helped me at the time, but I didn't do that until later on. It would have probably helped if I'd have done more radical feminist theory, because radical feminist theory is actually the most interesting stuff in regards to feminism, and it's closest to the truth, or has the most amount of truth compared to, say, lib fem or Marxist fem, or any other type of feminism. Yeah, so but I came from a very dysfunctional childhood. I was in foster care for a while, and my parents had been like left-wing activists and stuff, and that's a whole story. But basically, like my grandfather, his name is or was Sidney E. Parker. You can look him up. He's there's a website dedicated to his work, which I am the intellectual property owner of, unfortunately. And he was a radical individualist. He started off as an anarcho-communist and he became a radical individualist. I didn't really know him when I was a kid, but I ended up being the owner of his intellectual properties, and that's another story. But the reason I mention all of that is because I sort of dovetailed into becoming a libertarian. And this was just of my own accord. I didn't even do this from my granddad's influence directly. but when I did discover his work, I don't know what it is. There was some kind of resonance, and I don't agree with it now whatsoever. But at the time, that's a very interesting thing. I do think that there was a part of me that was maybe a bit of a spurg, probably, right? I don't mean that in a pejorative way, right? And I found myself going to like the libertarian meetup and making some friends through that and doing that whole, oh yeah, everything needs to be free market nonsense. I was listening to America too much. Shame on you guys. Right. And that really was connected to me becoming a men's rights activist, because I was really, really big on this concept of personal responsibility. And I really fell hard into women are not being held accountable properly like men are, in the ways that men are, and women should basically pull up their big girl panties and
pull themselves up by the bootstraps, right?
Yeah, I was really into that, and I was just annoying for a very long time.
It's funny because I guess this is why you and I get along, because from, I don't know, 2009 to 2015, 2016-ish, like I was libertarian, like completely libertarian. I was like, so like, pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, everybody, and it's like now now it's like, wow, I don't know why. I guess I had this idea.
We were obnoxious, weren't we? I know I was.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even the worst, because when I encountered men like you, no offense, I was like, I don't want to hang out with these spurgs. Like,
yeah.
Why am I here?
No, I would do the same thing though. I would meet libertarians in real life, and then I'd be like, I don't like these people. like they're just like, I'm over here trying to be a Christian and a libertarian, and I'm like, wow, things don't line up sometimes. And I'm like, maybe you should actually be rethinking that, Lance. Like, maybe you should be rethinking like your politics, because seems like it's not matching Christianity at all, So I don't know.
My excuse is that I was not a Christian at that time. But I know you were, right? So
I was a Baptist. I was like, hey man, hallelujah, get her done, man. I'll tell you what. No offense to Baptists. I love my Baptist friends.
I love the fact that Baptists are going to be the ones standing next to us against Christian nationalism. That's
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I have
you're right.
Baptist friends.
You're right.
But yes, there is an archetype, I guess, or stereotype of that kind of Baptist. Yeah. So like I was a bit lost. I was just I guess what I'm trying to communicate to you is I've got a kind of personality. I'm always going to be some kind of activist, and it's very annoying, but that's just me. And so I was gonna, where was I gonna land? I was gonna land somewhere. And at the time, like we're talking about like Tumblr feminism time.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Right, and it was like, I don't want to be like those people. And that was the emergence of the woke, and I was like, I basically came up on the 2015, 2016 alt-right come up. It became trendy to want to vote for Donald Trump, and even though I was in the UK, but our version of that was Brexit. And I campaigned for Brexit, and I became friends with people in young UKIP, and eventually I sort of became more nationalist via UKIP, and all of that. I did all of that. And some of those people that everyone knows from that time period, that some of them are still around, and some of them have definitely moved on. I know some of those people, or at least I know people that know them, or 6 degrees of separation. There's plenty of things, people that I could refer to and stuff. Not that I'm name checking. I'm just saying that, like, I wasn't really like some kind of major content creator, but I was very involved in the UK version of the MRM, and so I kind of, there's people that I met. So how I became Orthodox is basically through doing all of that stuff. I became demoralized at some point, because I realized how much of a con a lot of it is, and I realized the misogyny that I was really possessed by, and I had issues with my mom when I was younger, and that kind of explains why I have some psychological reasons why I went into that as well.
Yeah.
Started to heal some of that stuff, and um when I also had a really depressed period before I became an MRA, which makes sense because a lot of people that are MRAs are really broken psychologically.
Yeah.
And but I did have a moment where I was suicidal when I was like, I don't know, 20, 24, 25. And I prayed one day because I didn't know what else to do. And I felt like I had some kind of answer, but I don't know what the answer was. It was just this strength to keep going.
Yeah.
And then I slowly, even though I was a libertarian, MRA, doing all that stuff, even though I was doing all that stuff, there was something in the back of my mind that was going, you should think about this God thing, like, or
Yeah.
and I was sort of going, yeah, maybe. And I was never an atheist. I was never against Christians. I thought Christianity was all right. I took that cultural Christian position where
Yeah.
I was like, I support you guys, but
Did we lose? Did we lose Natty? Uh-oh. We may have lost Natty. Hold on. We're gonna see if yeah, she froze. Hold on 1 second. We'll see if it unfreezes. Let's see here. Oh, she will be back momentarily. All right, 1 second here. Yeah, so I think that's actually pretty interesting so far that she went through the men's rights activism, went through libertarianism, kind of similar to how I did, right? I think that's pretty interesting. Got into orthodoxy. Um, yeah, I'm not very good on the talking front on this one, but because I was going to let Natty just do a whole lot of this, but um, let's see if she's back on here. 1 second here. Uh, well, so I'll just kind of talk a little bit while I'm doing this. So, oh, nope, here she's back. All right, she's
what
back.
happened? It just like completely, it just went no internet. And I'm like, why? What have you done? What happened? I'm sorry about
No,
that.
you're fine.
Okay. Where was I? I don't know how it
10
went cut
years.
off.
10 years.
Okay, so I
genocide.
get to the yeah. So then I was taking that cultural Christian position, and I eventually admitted how demoralized I was by just political activism and just generally realizing the contradictions and things, and as I said, I had a louder voice in my head, in the back of my mind, saying, God, you should consider God, right? And then just before like lockdown, me and a group of friends who used to listen to Stefan Molyneux.
Oh man, you were heavy into that. You were heavy into that. Wow.
I'm so sorry.
It's
I
okay,
apologize to the world.
man.
That
Whoa.
man is so obnoxious. Anyway, so I oh, forgive me. And we used to listen to him, and one of them had become Catholic or something that I used to talk to, and there's this like an online group that we used to discuss Stefan Molyneux stuff.
Yeah.
And then he said, let's do a Bible study. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally up for doing that. And so we just did a Bible study of the Old Testament, and it was genuinely more interesting than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then around the same time, we used to go, I used to go to Speaker's Corner in London. I don't know if you've heard of Speaker's Corner.
No.
So Speaker's Corner is like legally protected free speech zone in Hyde Park in London. I mean, we have free speech to some degree in this country. I know that
Yeah.
the right wing like to say that we don't, but we do. And but this is like has legal protection. It's like a special area of London, and every Sunday, especially, although people can be there other days, people get on their soapbox. You know, they will preach or they will do a speech or whatever, and it's usually politics. And these days, it's usually Islamists versus Christians, or weirdos and Marxists who like to join the like weird kind of. When I say Marxist, now I know that a lot of people will be interested in Marxist analysis for various reasons, but I'm talking about the kind of like extremely left wing. I haven't brushed my teeth.
Yeah.
Right. Those they're really annoying. And
There's neckbeard in every single community, I think.
the Antifa.
Hopefully she didn't freeze again. Let's see. Uh-oh. All right. Hold on here. Having technical difficulties. So yeah, Janacita, I think I did tell you this. I have been Orthodox for 10 years, and I met Natty just like kind of randomly on Twitter back when it was Twitter. And so yeah, she's gonna be back on momentarily. We're just having technical difficulties. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, if y'all have questions, I can definitely try to answer those, or when she gets back on, she'll try to answer too. So, yeah, yeah. So um, it is interesting, like how people come into Orthodoxy, like her story here, and it started to reshape her views on feminism and men's rights and masculinity and femininity in general too, right? It's kind of just I find like that's why I like to interview people. Like it's super interesting. That's why I like to talk to people in general like this. Just learn about, oh, how did you get into Orthodoxy? Like, who are you? It's interesting. Stuff like that interests me. Um, yeah, she is. Janacita, the one says, no worries, she's a great resource for these types of subjects. And yeah, she is. She's very intelligent, very smart on these subjects. So great that you are interviewing her on your channel. Yes. I am. I'm happy to have her on. So I've been wanting to do this for a while, actually, because I've known Natty for a long time, actually, as far as online goes. So um let's see. She will be back on momentarily. Internet just does the internet, right? Let's see. So, since we're waiting on her, so I focus a lot on eschatology. I focus a lot on like Bible studies right now, and I'm doing a lot of like Bronze Age collapse period and stuff like that. And you know, um, I think that even though like if you look at the Bronze Age collapse period and you look at like the roles of men and women, it's pretty bleak for women. You have a whole lot of times where it's like, women have like basically no rights, no autonomy over themselves. And so I would agree, like if somebody was saying like, hey, oh, Natty's coming in.
I just went downstairs to go and reset the Wi-Fi to see if that would help, because it just turned off the Wi-Fi for no reason. That's very strange. I don't know, like
it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I used to go to Speaker's Corner, and then there is a guy there who's still well known and still attends there regularly, and maybe not as regularly as he used to. His name is Bob the Builder. I know that's a funny name. It's a nickname, and Bob is a good friend of mine now, and he's an evangelist. He's a full-time evangelist, and he's very much on the Christian right, promotes Christian nationalism now, but like not. He is like kind of Anglo-Catholic rather than very Reformed Protestant.
Okay.
And he has an ecumenical approach. And he's helped a lot of people become Christian, especially Muslims, because his specialist area is Islam.
Yeah.
And he has debates with Islamists all the time. And he helps people who are Muslim become Christian. And that is a very admirable thing that he does.
It is.
And he's a solid guy who, when it comes to like the basics of Christianity, if you want to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And yeah, me and my husband decided to do a discipleship with him, and he went through the New Testament, not the entire New Testament, but like the basics with us.
Yeah.
The interesting thing that happened as well is like me and my husband was never involved in any of the political stuff I was doing, but he was just a kind of like pro-capitalist guy. He was never particularly left-wing or right-wing, but he was just about trying to make some money, and he's really into boxing, and he started reading all these boxing biographies. And then, he loves reading sports biographies, and he was like, boxers, all the guys in boxing, like most of them are Christian, like more so than any other sport, and it's really fascinating me. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then when I started saying to him, hey, I think maybe I should look into Christianity a bit more, he was like, yeah, I'm actually kind of interested. And I was like, oh. And so he came at it from a completely different angle to me. Anyway, I also think he was starting to get glad that I was moving away from being a weirdo MRA, hanging out with libertarian spurgs and pro-Brexit nationalist circles. I mean, he was sort of on that side of things a bit, like centre-right politically, but he didn't care either way. And I think when he realised that I was like finally growing up and out of that, he was like, oh, thank the Lord.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, but when I looked into Christianity a bit further, I instantly was like, this Protestant Reformation business, like, why? Why would you get rid of all the monasteries? It doesn't make sense to me. And I just went, nah, and I just dismissed it like really quickly. I was like, I'm not being a Protestant. And then I was like, okay, the Roman Catholic stuff, that's kind of interesting, and I didn't really delve into it too deeply. But then a friend of mine who was on the same sort of journey, she said to me, have you looked into Orthodoxy? And I was like, what's that? I didn't know what it was. And then I like wrote some stuff online, and then I got a book about church history and was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna actually study this. And when I went into it, I was like, yeah, it just makes sense to me. Like, I didn't have to go through the houses of going Catholic versus Orthodox. Like, it just clicked for me. And I also, when I saw how they have their churches traditionally, and I saw the icons, and I read into the iconoclasm stuff, I was like, no, absolutely. Why would you not want icons? And I think they're much better than the naturalistic stuff of Renaissance. And I was just, it was just really easy for me to buy into it, to be honest. Like, I didn't have much of a challenge compared to some people I know who've become Orthodox.
Yeah.
So there you go. I was also a right-wing reactionary, so I clearly came in via being the female version of Ortho Bro at first. Not as annoying, but yeah, sorry. I apologize
No,
for that as well.
you're fine. We all have our quirks and past that made us. Thankfully, God gave us mortality so that we could change. So we are changing today, getting transformed through Christ today. So,
Yeah.
so hey, we're better versions of ourselves. Yay! You know, um, yeah. So like, it's interesting though, because now that you're Orthodox, like it's restructured your entire perspective, right? So it's transformed your perspective on feminism, masculinity, femininity, like um, it's that's a whole complex thing there. But like, I guess what I want to ask is how has that restructured? How's that changed for you? Like, because I know you're not a men's rights activist, you're not a feminist, you're not any of that. You're like, so oh, I think we froze again. We should keep the duck face though on, or that's not duck face. I think we got frozen again, but she'll be back on. So um let's look at the questions here. I'm gonna use my audience to help me out here because I obviously didn't prepare good enough. So let's see here. Question Janacita, what made you change to Orthodoxy from Baptist? So my story is kind of I studied Second Temple Judaism and uh kind of went through an atheist phase for like maybe a year, kind of a faith crisis. And I was thinking of going Roman Catholic, but I was hanging out with the Russians. So, in Texas, which is kind of a funny thing, but, yeah, I hung out with the Russian Orthodox people and I was like, okay, I like these people. They're pretty cool. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I leaned in on that one. And I genuinely I don't agree with the filioque and some other stuff like that. So, um, and when I looked into history, like papal supremacy just seemed like it was a problem, like a historical problem. So it seemed like the church just did not get on board with all that as a unified whole. So that's kind of why I didn't become a Roman Catholic. I still respect the Roman Catholics like a great bunch. Like Pope Leo, really like him. Pope Francis, really liked him. But yeah, that kind of answers Genesita and Lauren's question here about my little journey to Orthodoxy. And also, congratulations to Lauren, the rabbit. She was received in the church 3 months ago, so congratulations on that. That's awesome. I'm glad you're in church with us. Um, that's awesome. So let's see. Did I have any entry challenges getting used to like the body language, liturgy, icons, saints, etc., coming from baptism? Um, so kind of, but not really. So, um, body language, not really. Liturgy, that was a little bit difficult to get used to, but I kind of went in expecting that was going to be difficult. So, it was a little different for me. Icons actually, the saints and icons didn't really bother me that much. Icons, I just, from studying Second Temple Judaism, early Christianity, I just was like, okay, that makes sense that, like icons, like I read Exodus and I was like, okay, Torah says icons are okay. So obviously I think it's okay if Christians use icons. Um, so yeah, that's my answer to that a little bit. And I appreciate those questions. So, oh, hey, Natty's back on.
Okay, so I've moved rooms And I think that the Wi-Fi in that room, for some reason,
It's okay.
So third time's
gonna be the charm.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Let's keep going. I don't want to waste your time.
No, you're fine. It happens. It's fine. So let's see. I was gonna ask you, like, how did you get, like, how have your views reshaped since you've joined Orthodoxy?
Yeah. So I as I said, I entered via like I didn't enter because I was some people that's a major thing at the beginning. I mean, that was part of it for me, but it wasn't the major thing.
Yeah.
As I said, I had this like back of the mind voice saying, become a Christian. And I was genuinely demoralized. And I had really questioned what it is I was buying into. Like the misogyny stuff, I had realized quite not early on, but I had been really meditating on that for a while. It wasn't just like, oh, I got to 2021 and went, oh, well, it's all misogynistic. Like I had realized a few things. And one of the things was the way that Orthodoxy is so kind of graceful and just really seems to genuinely care about the person, the human, us as people, as humans. Like there seems to be kind of a tenderness about the way that it talks to theology and the way that the saints talk about people, in just going, we're all kind of sinners, we're all sinners, we're all messed up, and like we just need to just stop being so hard on each other, but at the same time balanced with a very kind of principled approach to sin and evil. And I think one of the things that when you're not a Christian, or especially when you're not Orthodox Christian, everyone falls into going too far one way or another. So I have quite a strong reaction to this kind of like limp-wristed, woke soy boy, or like all those kind of like women that make excuses for everyone all the time, and they don't really have proper boundaries. I was quite strongly reacting to a lot of that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, I also hated bullying, and I was always somebody that stood up for when somebody is being mistreated. Like I am the kind of person that if you're walking down the street and someone's in trouble, I'm gonna go and help them. Like I have no fear when it comes to things like that. I've been through quite a lot of experiences in my life, and I've always been like that. And so I kind of but you can become too righteous in that way.
Right. I agree.
So, and that was used to the MRA's favor when I was an MRA, the MRM's favor, because I remember when some of our activists got milkshakes, and right in front of me, and I chased down the people that did it and like held captive this young skinny vegan chick, and it's all on video. Like you can find I think I've got it on my playlist, a video of me just being like, yeah, what you doing, and just being very like, this is a citizen's arrest type of scenario, and the MRM was happy to use that to their advantage, right? But that in another situation, I would be called a horrible left-wing girl boss, right? Not that I was the girl boss type, as I wasn't really interested in careerism, but that kind of like, that kind of, I've got that kind of fire, as it were, but I didn't really like the idea of emasculating men at all. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman having fire. Like I just like there's times when a man needs a woman to have fire, right? Like sometimes a man's not always, in the best, sometimes like Oh, sometimes he's sick, sometimes he's, like, hurt, sometimes he's depressed just like everybody else is, sometimes so I think it's good when a woman can, like, have some fire and be like, say positive things to a man or say something, like, constructive that needs to be said, you know? I mean, you've got that all the time in the Bible too, where, I mean, and I know, okay, somebody's gonna tell me, well, Lance, you know that every time that a woman shows up in the Old Testament to do something awesome, it's because it's trying to tell the men that they suck, right? And that's true. But, it's also true, like, that's because they suck. God's trying to get them to do the right thing, Um, like
Yeah,
Esther and all the other, awesome women. Judith is a great one. The men are just not doing what they're supposed to do. And Judith is just like, all right, give me the hammer. I'm going to go seduce this guy and I'm going to seduce this pagan. And I guess I'm just going to take off his head. So,
yeah.
you know,
No, I
um,
hear what you're saying. I mean, I talk about this kind of stuff sometimes for sure on X. But at the same time,
it can go too far for sure.
yeah, and that's something I definitely would want to talk about maybe later on.
Oh,
But
yeah.
in terms of how orthodoxy helped me to, I don't want to use the word deconstruct, but at least the word we use in the faith is transfigure. Now, I'm not trying to claim that I have been completely been transfigured by Christ because I mean I'm a newbie, but I felt like something was going on with me after I started going to church and reading stuff and listening to sermons and just taking it in. And when I read the Orthodox Way by Callisto Square first. After
Mhm.
I read some stuff about church history, but that book was like not explicitly an Orthodox written book. And then I read the Orthodox Church also by him. And then there's another one that I read. What was that one again? That everyone knows. And then I started. I'm trying to remember which one it was now. Hang on, come back to me. And then I started listening to the Ancient Faith Radio, and I was listening to Father Andrew Stephen Damick. Just a lot of people go that route, and they're really useful to help you
They
get to
are.
know what it's about.
They help you center the most important things, I feel like
Yeah.
you might disagree on a few things with like Father Stephen De Young and Father Andrew. Like I disagree with a few things, but
Mhm.
ultimately though, like they're very good. They're very good at what they do. They're very good at helping you center like what's the most important thing about being an Orthodox Christian. Theosis. Try to transform your life to be
Yeah.
better for
Yeah.
Christ and for people, you know, and if we all focus on that, men and women are going to naturally, because through Christ's help and the Holy Spirit, obviously, um, we're gonna we're gonna get better. Like it's you're gonna live more justly, more righteously, and you're gonna be more fair to people. You're gonna be in a different mind space than what you would be if you were a feminist or a men's rights activist,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
I could feel the intellectually, I was taking things in, but I could feel it changing me. Um, And I read, and then I did read some stuff by Seraphin Rose. Like I listened to his survival guide, which is very long, and
mhm.
then I read Orthodoxy in the Religion of the Future, and I read excerpts from some other books because he's got some other books that I really want to go into at the time. And I have to say, I am happy that I read Timothy, or Callisto Square, sorry, his stuff before Seraphin Rose, because I
Oh
think
yeah,
some the Ortho Bro journey can be sometimes they skip some people, or at least but they skip the kind of developing grace and becoming less judgmental about people and learning to love people that you really don't really want to love.
yeah,
That kind of stuff, they kind of do seem to some of them seem to skip it, and they're like, oh, Seraphim Rose, and then they start getting obsessed with church fathers, and because they haven't taken in the important parts, then they get obsessed with their interpretation of the church fathers, as it were, or they listen to Seraphim Rose stuff, or there are some other
It
things that become just slightly misaligned.
it becomes it becomes misaligned. Like it becomes more, and I've noticed this with a ton of people. Like I came into Orthodoxy like not intending to go political with anything. I was trying to be non-political, which sounds crazy if you know me, but
yeah.
Like a lot of these people, and I don't mean this to be mean or anything, but like a lot of people that read Seraphim Rose and they completely skip this nice little segment he has where he's like, convertitis is a bad disease that people should really get away from. And I'm like, I don't personally, I don't hate Rose, just for disclaimer, but I don't recommend him anymore with anybody that
I mean, the seminary teacher of my seminary course was like, I never ever. I tell people not to
like,
read him.
And it's not because I think if you want to read him, go for it. I don't mind. Like that's fine. He's a great guy. He may even become a saint one day. I don't know. I think he should stay blessed for certain reasons that I'm not going to get into. But like there's nothing wrong with him per se. Like he was trying to live for Christ the best way he was able to at the time, and but Callisto's Ware is like one people should really read first, because he's got the mindset of, okay, the love of Christ, love of God, love of people. And if you don't center yourselves around that core message and you decide, I'm going to try to enforce my agenda or my politics or this into my orthodoxy, then it's not orthodoxy. It's something else. It's like what happens with Protestants and Catholics and everybody else, which we fall into the same trap. Like, I'm thinking Revelation right now. It's like, you're worshiping the beast. Like, well, yeah, they are. Everybody has a tendency to try to worship the beast, and they start to put their own thing into orthodoxy that's not supposed to be there. So like the key is,
or something they already had. They use some stuff in the church to justify it as well. Right. Yeah. I found, as I said to you, I was in the political side of things, and I kind of still am, but I can explain how I am. I'm not now, but I am at the same time, and I'll explain that.
Well, we all have that unfortunate, like, you're trying to get out of the world, but you're still stuck in it, right? So
but I also think that this is a whole other thing to do. Some tendency of retreatism, and I also don't like that.
I don't like it either. I agree.
Yeah, I know you don't. Yeah, me and you have that from it. And I find that there are some people that claim retreatism. They're like, I'm turning off all my social media. I don't know what's going on, and that's good because I'm just trying to. Okay, cool. I think that's a good urge, but at the same time, is it that black and white though? Like, is it? And I understand that there needs to be a time period where you probably do that for, to kind of really get yourself away from things. I understand that, but and that's a whole other. I could go on about that for a while, because that's something that's a constant theme.
Well, you gotta force yourself.
Yeah, but they're not actually. And again, judge them, like, Lord have mercy about whatever, but at the same time I found that some of them they're not actually continually looking into oneself to, like, go, okay, I've unearthed this, see if Christ helps me with that. Okay, all right, now I feel good. Okay, but now I've fallen again. Okay, now I've unearthed that, and then it keeps going, right? Like theosis. I found that some people that do the retreatism stuff are just sort of stay at a certain point, and they
got comfortable, and they don't want to get challenged. They don't want to, they don't want to be challenged, and they want to stay in that bubble, because no, if I may have to like tell my priest, like, he's not, I may in private, obviously, I may have to tell my priest, like, oh, that stuff that you're saying about women, it's pretty disgraceful, it's pretty disrespectful. I may have to talk to your bishop about it, because you're like telling women that your place is only in the kitchen, and like that's kind of awful, actually.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, well, that's the whole thing we could go
Yeah,
into in a sec, but there are
and
some
I
priests
could
who are,
reverse that role too, obviously, where
yeah,
it's like
but there are some priests who are going,
do
I'm
the
saying
opposite.
my sermon's kind of neutral. Like, what do you expect from me?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah. Well, again, I'm not trying to judge all the priests because I know how difficult
Oh, yes, and
okay, I don't know, but I can see how difficult it is. And please don't interrupt me. Go away. Thank you. Please don't interrupt me. I came in here. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Okay.
it's all good.
Oh, that's my spurg brain. I was like, ah! Because I was in the room, I was upstairs. I ain't gonna get interrupted. In here, like my mother-in-law told me kids not to interrupt.
I gotcha.
Anyway, so let's keep going. Yeah, but what I wanted to circle back to is this is what I felt like really did it for me in terms of going, whoa, I really need to I am so glad I'm Orthodox, was when I really started to get my head around how the Trinity maps onto reality. And you see the Trinity in many things and all things. And I'm not saying I understand the Trinity because no one does, but at the same time, what we know, what the Orthodox Church knows about it, I was just blown away. I was like, this is what I've been looking for. Because I have this vague understanding of polarity, right? Or before as a Christian, the good versus evil, or like how people fall into this way and that way, the left and the right spectrum, capitalism versus socialism, all of that. And then you think about things like horseshoe theory, and this idea that we're supposed to go above this tendency to do that.
Yeah.
But the way that the Trinity is in Orthodoxy, like it just made things click for me to go, hang on a minute, we have to understand things in a relational way, and if we don't do that, then we just fall into this polarity thing, right, again and again in
Yeah.
different ways. We think we're not, but we are. And when I realized that, I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to try and understand this. It just really, I'm not saying that any of the saint stuff, any of the saints' writings or any of the other teachings it's not impacted me, but it was really the Trinity that really like grasped hold of me and was like, okay, like this is, because I think I just have a tendency to think in a way where I'm going, okay, I can see the Trinity here and I can see the Trinity there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I do this all the time with my eschatology studies. I'll be studying something and then I'm like, or it could be Second Temple Judaism or something. I joked with a friend the other day because he was messaging me about something completely opposite of what like you would think. But then I was like, I'm reading Numbers right now, right? And so I'm like, oh, this is like Balaam's trying to curse Israel, and then, well, he actually starts blessing them instead and can't stop. And the guy, my friend was like, how did you put that together and somehow make it coherent? And I was like, I guess the Holy Spirit wanted me to tell you that today. I don't know. That's maybe that's what it was today. I don't know. I don't want to sound Pentecostal, but aga booga booga, man. So, um, and I'm sorry,
Amen.
Pentecostals,
Put
if
me
you're
in the
watching.
gospel church anytime. I'm gonna be up there with all my black family. Just yeah,
Yeah,
um, no, but yeah. I mean, it just this idea that there's like what was it I was talking about recently on X? It was the talking about knowledge and the Trinity, and he was saying the Noah, the act of knowing and the relationship, and this idea about how, like, for example, the father as the monarch, but at the same time, it's not like he's some kind of, oh, I get to dictate what the Son and the Holy Spirit are doing. No, they're co-equal, but like at the same time, there's an order of operations of
yeah,
and I'm like, why wouldn't this is exactly how we should be thinking. Like we should be This should be helping to shape us how we understand reality and each other. And I don't know, I just became quite I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm Orthodox when I realized that was it. I don't know what else to say. The other thing that led me to Orthodoxy as well is, this is probably what you wrote down about stuff for us to talk about, is to be a men's rights activist, you have to believe that the West is gynocentric. Yeah, so it's like a social constructivist kind of analysis of Western culture and our history, and that means that you believe, if you believe the West is gynocentric, that we are women-centered in our culture at the expense of men, right? It's not, oh, sometimes we protect women and don't protect men, or women need more protection than men. That's what a lot of people online who just repeat the term without knowing what it truly means sometimes think it means, and argue with me about it. And I'm like, no, dude, it means women centered at the expense of men, right?
And it can be positive and negative in that sense. So
well, I mean, I don't believe our culture is gynocentric in the
yeah,
slightest.
I agree.
There might be something that appears to be gynocentric. Actually, when you examine it, it's not. I did start off more softly going, oh, you know, there's some things that are gynocentric and some things that are androcentric. But actually, now, a few years later, I'm like, no, nothing's really gynocentric. Sorry. Anyway, I can explain that. But the reason I'm bringing that up is the author of this theory, Peter Wright, his name is, whether that's his true name, that isn't his true name, his real name is something else. But anyway, that's his pen name on the internet. He is the one who codified this theory, took all the uses of that term and then used them for his subversive version of it. So, like, all the ways that term has been used in the past, he put them all together on gynocentrism.org, right? And then wrote a bunch of essays about it, and then deeply influenced the men's rights movement and the manosphere. Yeah, even though there's like two sides of that. So the manosphere is like the more evolutionary biology, psychology focused side, although both do use that. Or they're more gender essentialist, essentially, or tradcon, and the MRAs are more social constructionist, egalitarian side, right? But they have the same root. They both believe the West is gynocentric, and they both got this from Peter Wright. He is the one who monopolized the term. The way that the term is used now is because of him and his writings. And I've been accused of people going, why are you so obsessed with him? And I'm like, listen, if you talk about socialism, you're not going to talk about Karl Marx. Like,
yeah, exactly.
What's your problem? Like, yeah, it's just a way for them to try and do ad hom against me, and they can't think of anything else except
and deflect from actually having to critically think about it, you know.
So the reason I'm bringing it up is I realized because I did read Peter's writings, there's definitely stuff in it that I was just like, yeah, I don't really know much about this. It sounds confusing, because I had my whole issue with mummy issues and stuff, right? And I went into this whole thing about how he believes that main example of how the West is gynocentric is that Western culture, and he's talking about Roman Catholic influence. Since the medieval period, he said, during the medieval period, a bunch of ladies of the court, including Eleanor of Aquitaine, decided that they should change chivalry and make it about centering women at the expense of men, even though chivalry wasn't originally about that. And then also this is the era of romantic love becoming like a thing, and it wasn't really a thing before, which is interesting because this happened after West Schism. That's a whole other point to refer to. I think it's interesting. Anyway, he makes this claim that it was basically like a cabal of women, and it was like some kind of loose conspiracy. Yeah. Doesn't really prove it whatsoever, because guess what? It's not true.
You can't, yeah.
But then he goes on to say that the way that the West thought about Mary was that they put her on a pedestal and she was seen as moral, sinless and a princess and like a goddess over everyone. And because of this feudalistic culture that we had, all the peasants started calling her Our Lady because she was above them.
It's so weird. Like
That's
the only
yeah.
that the only thing that, like when I hear that, the only thing I think is the only reason she's above us in any sense is that we're very sinful and she passed the test to be a saint. That's it. Like
right.
that's
yeah, but
that's,
the thing is from his analysis, because he is actually applying Marxist style power dynamics analysis to this, yeah, because his main version of gynocentrism theory comes from the Baxter. Oh gosh, I'm not going to get his name right, but you can Google this really easily. He was a Marxist in the 1900s who used the term gynocentrism to whine about how women were being treated better than men or something, and it was totally through Marxist analysis, right? And so he is literally using that way of thinking to make this argument. And then he claims, and this is what the audacity moment, he says that women were not expected to be Christ-like in any way.
Whoa, wow, okay.
Like, when I read that, I was like, even if I wasn't a Christian, I would do like the what now?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like, even somebody that's not a scholar in Christianity, the most basic understanding of like Western history, when you look at the influence of the church and culture, are you trying to tell me that women were not expected to be Christ-like?
It's not even true in Judaism. Like that's not even true in Judaism. Like you take Christ out of the equation, that's not even true in Judaism. Like they're still women are still expected even without having certain rights like to their body and stuff like that. Like because it's Bronze Age period, so really wild stuff going on there for our modern minds. But like even then, the women are expected like you're going to live righteously for God and try to live justly and ethically and like even if that leads you down certain roads that you're forced down, right? But like no, even still like this is that's wild to me.
Doesn't it make you kind of go speechless? You're like, what?
That's like it's bizarre.
Those big lies that only most people who are already blinded by their misogyny or their hard feelings about women at that particular moment, or they're just reacting to things in the culture, etc. Right? They would just go, oh yeah, okay, like there are so many people I know who online who've been influenced by the term gynocentrism, and when I explain it to them, they're like, oh, but it doesn't really mean that though. And I'm like, it does, mate. Go and read his essays. And they're like, yeah, but I don't think about it that way. And I'm like, okay, so are we going to do this thing where I say to you, I'm not a feminist, but I believe women should have rights. And then you say to me, no, you're a rabid feminist, you hate men. And I go, well, that's not what the word feminist means to me. And then you're doing the same thing to me. Yeah. You're saying you're using the term in your truth. Yeah, that's your individual truth. And this conversation I have had so many times, I've lost count. It's the same like individualistic sola scriptura. Sorry, Protestant, I love you, but this whole thing like I can just make up my own way of using this term.
Yeah.
And then when you say to them, okay, everybody's tech hate is feminism, like and then you talk to a woman about what feminism means to them, and they explain it to you, and you go, well, that's not what feminism means. You've been indoctrinated. And I'm like saying, yeah, I get some. I know the arguments about feminism, anti-feminism. Okay, right, and I'm saying to you that the same stuff has been done to you about this term gynocentrism, and you're like going, no, it couldn't be me, and it just blows my mind. But then I remember that we get lost in this one side or another, left versus right, polarity, whatever. And I know that happens to everyone, even people that are trying to be neutral. It still happens.
Oh yeah,
I get it, but it's still annoying because it's really damaging. And where I'm getting to with this is when one of the things that I really, really appreciate about Orthodoxy was how they think about Mary and the Theotokos. And I was just like, this is beautiful. It's so nice how she's venerated, how her life is kept in the liturgical calendar, how she's just I've got a sense of her real humanness, and some of the echoes of what Peter Wright's getting at when he talks about thinking of Mary on a pedestal. In the Roman Catholic Church, you can get a sense of that if you don't truly understand them. They don't think about her that way, but at the same time, calling her co-redemptress in the past, yeah. I can see why the Protestants whine about that, right?
Yeah.
And someone on the outside, it's easy to do that. And the Roman Catholics are realizing that, which is why they removed that term. However, like the way that his criticism and his analysis of it, Peter Wright, is he just takes it way too far, like ridiculously too far. It's really subversive. And when I realized how much that theory is based on resentment and almost hatred towards Mary, I cried. I'm not even joking. I was like, holy crap, what have I done? Like,
yeah,
I felt the amount of guilt. Oh my gosh, I feel emotional. I just felt really, really bad. And let me gather myself for a second. Anyway, I ended up choosing her as my saint because I kind of realized the amount of trauma that has gone on in misrepresenting her and how this does influence women quite significantly. Like his whole point about her being an archetype, as much as that's a Jungian, there is something about that symbolically. And I woke up one day and when I was like doing my catechism, catechesis, and I was like, I have to choose Mary. I can't. Something is telling me to choose her. So that's kind of another sort of thing that when I came into Orthodoxy, I realized there was this deep thing going on with that. And then I go to a church now where I'd say I have like a priest who I confess to, who you could say is my spiritual father or whatever. But there's another priest, another church that I also go to sometimes, or used to go to more often. And he's more of a writer type, academic type. And when I told him about this, because I was kind of distraught about it for a while, he said to me, "Oh, let me read Peter's work," because he was observing the ortho bro right wing stuff online, and he ain't gonna say anything about it online, right? He's a priest, but some priests do, but he ain't. And then he said to me, "I'll read it for you. I'll tell you what I think. I believe you, but I also want to see it for myself." He read it and he wrote me like a page of notes, and he was just like, I had to start reading that book of essays, because it's not a book of where the chapters are connected. It's like a book of essays. He said, I had to stop reading this book 3/4 of the way because there was something nasty about the way this guy Peter thinks about Mary, women in general, but Mary, like there's something nasty about it. And I even felt like I was getting some kind of spiritual attack. And
well, I mean,
that sounds a bit cringe sometimes when you say like, "Oh, that's demonic," whatever. It's a bit.
I
like,
mean, it is though.
He was being for real.
I mean, it is though. Like if you read certain things, like it is like the devil is literally influencing some of the stuff that these people are, putting out. So I completely get that. I've had that experience myself plenty of times. I'll be reading works by certain eschatology people, and I'm like, gosh, you just hate Christ. Like you believe the atheists and believe their hatred of Christ over, and not all atheists, obviously, but there's some respectable ones out there. But like the ones that actually do hate Christ, like like you're just taking this stuff and like going with it, and like now it's why you've got this bastardized Christ, and you know, and the same thing is true. Like this guy's bastardized Christ and Mary, like because he's so full of himself and his ego, and the devil's exploited it in his writings. So yeah, I completely get that. I completely like completely understand that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not sure where you want to, if you want to direct the conversation next, but I could keep going with my flow of where I think it's what I want to talk about. If you
Um,
have any more questions, like, because, but yeah, that I think I've communicated just how strongly that affected me and still continues to. The fact that I was like, I've got hundreds of saints I could choose, and I just decided that the top saint was. I even messaged my priest and was like, "Is this a bit grandiose? Like, this not really done thing. I know that a lot of Catholics are called Mary, and you got Mary of Egypt or whatever, or Maria of Paris. She's a really interesting one. They're clearly named after Mary or Mary Magdalene. I mean, but I was like, no, I still like, I needed to. So,
I think that's I think it's probably obviously God was guiding you. Like that's that's your saint. Like she was speaking to you, I guess.
yeah,
Like
I
I
can't
was with
bring myself to
Lazarus.
say that. So you can say it for me.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing happened with me with Lazarus. Like when I was and for people knowing, like I was a full preterist for 5 years. Um, I know, a stupid heretic. Um, so bad, so evil. So bad, so bad. Build a wall. Some I assume are good people, but build a wall, build a wall. All full preterists get behind the wall. Um, there's my Trump impression. I can do one of Biden too. It's like, where am I? Um,
That was
uh,
amazing. Do that
yeah.
again later.
I should just do a whole entire deal where I try to do impressions. I should do that. Yeah. Gosh, I lost my train of thought.
You were
Uh,
saying about how you became Lazarus.
oh
Or
yeah.
chose Lazarus.
Sorry. See,
Well,
this is
Lazarus
my
chose you. He chose you.
yeah. This is my ADHD coming out. So
Same,
my
same.
my I took the name Lazarus because like I used to spiritualize and kind of deny the resurrection of Christ, and like I was just, I was messed up with my interpretation of scripture until I got with the church fathers and they corrected me on it, right? Um and so I when I was gonna get baptized, my priest, Father Cassian, was like, all right, I'm gonna give you like the option of like three names, like Leo, and he jokingly did Lactanius. I don't good saint, but I don't want to be known as Lactadius. That just sounds like lactate. Sounds
Yeah,
like I'm
yeah.
gonna milk a cow with some. I don't know. Anyways, um, then the other choice was like Lazarus, and I was like, huh, okay, all right, yeah, okay. I thought the whole time about taking the name Paisios and or Porphyrios, and
I
then it was like,
really,
okay, Lazarus. So I took Lazarus. And I was like, because I denied the resurrection. So who better than the one that got resurrected physically by Christ?
yes,
And
that's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
and he's gonna be resurrected twice because he died and he's gonna be raised again, right? So he had a temporary resurrection and he's gonna be raised again on the last day. So I was like, yeah, Lazarus, I'll take Lazarus. So now I've got the nickname years later, Saint Lazarus, the full predator slayer. So I don't know, but whatever. That's a weird. That's a
Amazing. That's
weird.
amazing.
I love it,
Yeah.
but that's a weird.
Well, let me
All
tell
my
you a couple of
Protestant.
let me
Yeah.
tell you a couple of little anecdotes about Mary the Theotokos as a patron saint. Like, my friend is part of this church in Halifax that mass converted. So the deacon training to be priest, who used to be the pastor, they were like reformed type. Over 30 of no, maybe 40, between 30 and 40 of them mass converted like less than 6 months ago in the Midlands. And my friend goes to that church. and the daughter of the deacon, her saint name is Mary. And then my friend, her daughter decided to call herself Mary as well. And she had no idea that my patron saint was Mary. And I was like, oh, that's really heartwarming to know. And like, you know, when we all hung out at the like baptism thing, I said, hey, I sing this song to my kids that I got from this curriculum, this Orthodox kids curriculum online, and it goes, oh, Holy Lady Theotos, our mother, our guardian, our queen. Yeah. And I said to those two little girls, I said, hey, which one do you want to be since the three of us are together today? And the little girl said, I'm the queen. And I was like, that's right, you're the queen. And then the other one went, you know, I think maybe I like guardian. And the thing is, that makes sense because her personality is she's quite alpha. Like she always has, if you go to a social event, all the kids follow her around. She tells them what to do. And like, she's like leader type.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, clearly your mother. And I was like, yeah, I am a mother. Like, okay, cool. So we took a little picture together, and it felt quite healing to have the three of us together like that. And then I also, when I started going to the church I go to now, which is the church in Lincoln, Father Philip's church, he has a YouTube channel, right? I'm just promoting his channel now. Yeah, you can look it up. And he has a deacon called Father Panayotis. Now, when I first met him, I didn't clock that Panayotis was. Oh, sorry, I'm not saying it right. I can't say Greek stuff.
It's okay.
Panayotis. Panayotis. Can you say it?
You might be right. Penny. Is it Paniaga or Panioka?
The G has to be anything. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I can't say it either.
The Greek sort of thing.
Panagia.
It's from Panagia, yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't clock when I first met him. I was like, I didn't realize that it was from. It makes sense. I just didn't realize. I just thought maybe there's another saint called Panayotis. Panayotis. There you go. It's a Y. Yeah. And then he sat down with me after liturgy one day, and he said, "Hey, I know you've spoken to me about. I'm also Theotokos." I went, "Gosh, of course." And he went, "Yeah." I feel like I kind of trauma bonded with me. He did a degree in theology as a Protestant, and he realized how important Mary was. Talking to the other Protestants about arguing with him. Oh man, I can't no. And then he became Orthodox, and he felt like he had to choose her because he spent a lot of time defending her. And I went, that's what I'm doing now, mate. And he was like, yeah, me and you have this in common, clearly. So
yeah,
that was beautiful to realize that about him. And you know, so if you come across any other Panayotis, it's Mary.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, people want to make all these assumptions and presumptions about people, but like at the end of the day, I know your heart behind it too. Like, even if I and I don't disagree, but like even if I did, I'd be like, well, no, her heart is for God here. It's like she believes this because she's trying to spread Christ to people, and this is her avenue, right? Kind of like my avenue is this niche group of really weird people, and you know, like,
yeah,
it is what it is. Like it's what I dabbled into, and now I'm stuck with them, you know.
Yeah. This is the thing, right? When I became Orthodox and I moved house, I moved from London to the Midlands. And I was like, yeah, me and the husband are gonna do trad life, you know, we homeschooling, whatever. And I started hanging out with some other Christians who are Protestants, and that's a whole other story that I could go into. Well, I could reference that because I ended up learning a lot about Christian nationalism, not because I had necessarily wanted to.
Yeah,
I kind of had to for reasons. And I was like, hang on a minute. I can't ignore this. I can't actually do the retreatism thing. Actually, like there's something. No, I'm gonna have to just, and for a while I think I went through a lot of kind of psychological angst and felt a bit re-traumatized about certain things, and I did probably go right into it a bit and was like, but now I think I'm kind of more balanced, and I think I know the path I'm more steady,
Yeah.
and but yeah, so I just kind of like, there are probably some people that would be like, oh, why are you doing that? And I'm like, I don't think you get like how no one really seems to be talking about how this entire movement, everybody's talking media and whatever, has taken hold of a lot of young men and a lot of women's lives. How there is like something in it, the gynocentrism theory is part of the foundation of why people are believing this stuff, not just because they're fallen, like we always fall into this anyway, but this current like culture that we're in now, that there is something really nasty about Mary, like the way that we should think is going on underneath. Like that's not really being talked about. And that's why, and maybe I don't know what question you want to ask next, but that is why I was like, I'm just gonna like do a really disastrous debate with Andrew Wilson.
Oh yeah.
Do a PR stunt to try and like just you can look that up about me and you can see the comments, and the comments are basically burn the witch. And
Yeah, they are.
I'm in there as well.
I'm the only one in there like, hey, let's not burn a witch. That's not cool. Let's not burn them. That's not literal in the Old Testament, and we shouldn't do that in the New Testament either. Okay.
Yeah, but I was willing. I honestly, there are some people that even that I have had to go. They've gone, well, why did you do that? And you shouldn't. And I'm just like, yeah, but sometimes I don't know. I felt like I had to break some eggs. Because basically the reality about Andrew Wilson and Rachel Wilson is that Andrew is a sophist, and I'm confident calling him that. And he has a strategy that he uses, and he doesn't actually care about the truth that much. He's good at what he does, but what he likes to do as well, which is really sneaky, is he says, I am not the best example of orthodoxy. You can't hold him to that. So I'm like, you're misrepresenting orthodoxy. Shame on you, right? Well, this is what you shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, well, I'm not doing that anyway. And I'm not even here to show that I'm the best Orthodox Christian. I'm not a priest, And I'm just like, yeah, but you're not supposed to be like spinning it that way, mate.
Yeah.
Like when people argue with me online, I say, I say to them, yeah, you're right. I am sinning right now. Like sometimes, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's true. I don't turn around and say, I'm not representing the church. Like that's not I mean, I am not, of course I'm a woman, I wouldn't want to be clergy, but like I'm not in any official capacity. But at the same time, like I know that if people talk to me, they're gonna go, she's an Orthodox Christian, and that they will remember that about me. So the fact that he tries to spin that like in that way, it really bothers me that he does that, because it is a strategy. It's plausible deniability. Because then he also tries to do that thing where he says, "Oh, it's just a joke."
Yeah,
right?
it's like nasty. It's like my problem with him too is like, and this is bad because like if I had to be in a room with Andrew or Rachel Wilson or Jay Dyer, I think I'm picking Jay Dyer. Because I can actually maybe have a good faith discussion with Jay Dyer. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but like my problem with them is, and I've watched them do this plenty of times. They go on that podcast with all the OnlyFans girls and all this other weird stuff, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, first of all, both of them are very hypocritical. Like Andrew's been married twice or whatever, and she's been married twice, I guess. I don't remember. That's not a thing I would normally go like, oh, that's something I'm going to bring up about your past. But like in this case, you know, there's some OnlyFans girls on there that have gotten divorced and they remarried or whatever, and he's over here going, "You're a disgusting blah 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 because you did that." I'm like, brother, like, brother in Christ, like, you literally did the same thing with your life, and she's outside of the church. Are you not able to give any grace to this person? Like, you're not able to. I find it gross. Like your life for better, like you're gonna screw up, but like your life is supposed to reflect God and orthodoxy, and then treating everybody like they're just like everybody outside that's not orthodox, like, oh, they live this way, so they're worthless and degenerates and evil. It's like, well, if you gave some grace to this person and like tried to lovingly correct them, not this nasty version of correctness, like you're just acting like a Puritan, and so you're just being destructive. Like you're not.
See that. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
you're good.
See, the thing about Andrew and Rachel is other people might. There are other types online who do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing about Andrew and Rachel is they will turn around, especially Andrew, say, "Yeah, but I'm just doing this for entertainment purposes, and I'm doing this for the big picture. I'm using these women to demonstrate, liberalism's a problem. Modern liberal women are destroying the West." I know that he even has a more intelligent argument than that, actually, than a lot of the silly right wingers.
Yeah.
But and then when he says hyperbolic statements, and then I might have argued, I might have said something, or someone else will respond to them, and he'll be like, "I'm just joking. I'm just doing this to get attention. It's for the clicks. It's whatever." And he's like quite upfront about how transactional, or what's the right word?
It's a grift, and he's admitting it.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. That's really nihilistic, actually.
Yeah.
And he's taking that whole, this idea like being a fool for Christ, or I get to be a bit of an arsehole because ultimately the ends justify the means. And to some degree of what I get up to online, I have utilized that a little bit for sure, right? But then he's just gone all the way over there with it, right?
Yeah.
To the extent where now you can't hold into anything, right? That's what he does.
And that's sophistry, like you were saying. Like it's complete sophist arguments where it's like, okay, nothing really matters. I'm just gonna make up whatever I can concoct out of my butt, right?
Yeah. And then the whole thing is that even though he will claim all of that, at the end of the day, when you see how him and Rachel like represent themselves, or Rachel will talk about her marriage or whatever, it still ends up being like, I'm accepting that my husband can be an abusive asshole, no offense, like, because I just have to submit to him. And it's like she does this weird thing where she's like, "I'm not a trad wife, I'm not conservative, I'm just reacting to all of this stuff like everyone
I'm
else."
not a feminist, but I'm going to use all the platforms and stuff that I'm allowed to use as I have rights as a woman, and I'm going to use them against other women. It's so that always was the weirdest thing to me, because I even told her once, and I was probably mean when I said this, but I was like, "Why aren't you in the kitchen? Like why aren't you just like shutting up and being in the kitchen? Because that's what you tell other women to do. So why aren't you just like actually just why don't you just let Andrew do all this? Why are you publishing a book? Why are you doing all this? Like you're taking a lot of actions that I mean I don't see other trad wives do, and it's
she will probably say that the circumstances we're in justify it,
which is sophistry.
but they can't. Yeah, it's also, you can't. There are lots of Theo bro types, trad wife types, or other fundamentalist types that are really annoying, and they do. Andrew and Rachel, like, they've put themselves in this position where you can't hold them to anything at all. And so like I've made my arguments about how Andrew's worldview is still red pill at the core, right?
Yeah.
And I've done my video about Rachel's book. Like, I know a bunch of people that read her book. I heard about this nun that read her book and was like, that book is poison. And I was like, whoa, okay, I get right here. Something in that book that's just, again,
Demonic.
yeah, demonic, right? And the ironic thing is her whole narrative is that feminism is occultism, which is demonic. And I'm like, okay, but the way that you did this kind of vaguely bad written book is that a nun reads it and she's like, no, this is actually you embracing the demonic. You know?
Yeah. Well, and let's get real. At the end of the day, Rachel's argument, if she was really actually honest with herself, if she was actually honest to the audience, it would be, oh, I don't want liberal women to have rights. I want conservative women to have rights. I want to have all the, and she might say otherwise, but at the end of the day, she really just wants the liberal women because this is a political agenda that they're pushing. I was gonna say too, like the thing is too, like I know I just went like, oh yeah, Andrew is always doing this about like non-Protestants, non-Christian OnlyFans girls, right? It's not true though. He acts the same way to Catholic and Protestant women that actually care about their faith. So like I use this as an example. I think her name's Not So Erudite. She was on a podcast with him. She kicked his butt on there. She was pointing out a lot of inconsistencies about him. And like her or not, like I'm not gonna make a whatever, but she's kind of a liberal Christian of sorts, I would say. I'm not judging her or whatever, but like she asked him good questions. She was for the most part very respectful, kind to him actually, until he wasn't, right? Because but the thing I noticed was like he just could not engage in good faith at all with her. And I'm like, okay, as a Christian man, I get like I can get maybe if you make a good argument to me, I can get maybe you'd be like, well, that OnlyFans girl was blah 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 blah, and I'm a Christian and blah 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 blah. I could rationalize that a little bit. Like, okay, you're kind of a Puritan, but whatever. I kind of get your reaction to that. But this is a for terms Christian. Like, why can't you be respectful with like it? But it's all at the end of the day, it's all political agenda. It's all sophistry. It's all a grift. So, like, and so much of it is literally, and this is me sounding like a Marxist probably right now, but so much of it is the manosphere capitalizing off of late stage capitalism, where we're going through all this economic turmoil, we're going through all this time where nobody's happy, everyone's depressed, we're not making enough money, we're all feeling disenfranchised, we're all feeling horrible. And then you have like this feminist ideology, you have the men's rights ideology, and you have this all intermingling with Christians too, and some of it's getting into there, and it's all complicated. It's all confusing. It's a gender confused age, right? Just like my title on here. It's horrible. Like you have to live in this world. Like this sucks. This is horrible. And
you look sorry to but
go ahead.
I was gonna say I wanted to go in. I would like to go into my sort of framework of the arguments that I make. I've got quite a few different videos, but I've given the foundation about the gynocentrism theory, and me becoming relatively indifferent to politics, although I am pretty strongly at the moment like, keep the king, he's not a Muslim, shut up. You just okay. But that's not winning me a lot of friends at the moment. But that's a very kind of just stay stable. Let's not cut off the king's head and become Oliver Cromwell interregnum period 2.0. Anyway, but what the stuff I've been saying on X in my videos, like you mentioned, I coined this status anxiety, right? I wrote this little essay about the ortho bros and those who blaming the full of the West on modern liberal women, about really it's all just about status anxiety. Yeah.
It is. It's so much about it.
And then the other point is that the vibe or the spirit of this all is what I call spiritually homo. And
Yeah.
that sounds like an ad hom, oh, you're gay. No, it actually it's not. It's actually descriptive. Because as you said, it's gender confused. And what I think a lot of people haven't quite got their heads around yet, in my opinion, is that the right wing is also gender confused. So
Yeah.
everyone sort of understands the arguments about the LGBTQ thing, the gender fluid, la yada, what is a woman? We've sort of passed that now. Where we have a relatively consensus-driven point where most people are like, yeah, that was a bit, right? There's something weird and transhumanist about all of that. Okay, right. And then what I realized when I was a men's rights activist was that the manosphere, being called Red Pill, and the MGTOW guys, which was like the early, they're still around MGTOW, but it's like the MGTOW guys were really early on.
Yeah.
And that whole thing was started by transhumanist men.
Yeah.
Like they weren't just like, oh, I'm a bit annoyed because I can't get me grievances. It was legitimately like, we can't colonize Mars because of those darn feminists. And
Yeah.
that was said by oh my gosh, what's his name? Brain fog. Stardust. That guy has been online.
Sargon, yes. Okay.
Not Sargon. No. Sargon, not Sargon. Stardust.
Oh, okay.
Right?
My bad.
This guy has been online. I don't know if his YouTube account is. He's been online for like 20 years. Okay.
Got it.
He's like one of the original MGTOW monks. Okay. And then you had Barbarossa, who's not around anymore, but he was like, I'm kind of a transhumanist. And then you have a look at one of the early collection of writings that influenced the entire manosphere thing online, which was the Misandry Bubble essay published in 2010 or 11 on a transhumanist blog by a guy called Khan. His surname was Khan. What was his first name? Oh my gosh, I hate it when my brain does this when I'm mid-flow. You can look this up, it's still online. It's literally the entire essay of all the talking points of and the Red Pill Manosphere. All of it. It's all there, right? And then I know that Rollo Tomassi wrote his very influential book, The Rational Male, but like Rollo Tomassi got his idea about gynocentrism theory from Peter Wright. Or at least those two were around online about the same time, bounced back between the two because AVFM, A Voice for Men, which is started by Peter and Paul. I think it's really funny that they're called Peter and Paul, and that's not their real name. Peter Wright is not his real name. Paul Elam is not his real name. I'm just going to be conspiracy theorist here, but if you spell Paul Elam's name, right, backwards, it's like male. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what Paul is spelled, male lark or lorp. Okay, fine. But Peter Wright's definitely not his real name either. And I find it really interesting that they're called Peter and Paul. Like, the church.
Yeah. It's trying to
Paul and Peter, Peter was quite a controversial guy. Like he was told off a bit, before he sorry, I'm not saying that about I'm a Catholic here, but I'm just saying, he was corrected, and Saul became Paul, and was also like a very kind of like one of my friends who I talk to a lot online in America, who's an inquirer in Orthodoxy. Like she's probably going to be calling herself Pauline if she ever gets sized into Orthodoxy. Also because everybody hates in the Bible, right? Anyway, I find it interesting that they're called that. But AVFM was like the pivotal kind of place for where the whole online MRA thing came from, and the manosphere directly influenced the whole thing. And like there's this strand of, if you are an MRA, you are either explicitly a transhumanist, or you make excuses, or you're very like passive and nonchalant about it. So you literally, I've tested this out. You talk to them and you say, hey, what do you think about transhumanism? Do you want to be a cyborg? Do you think we should have Neuralink? Do you think we should, get to artificial wombs? And then they will say either yeah, like those women need to, like the monopoly and reproduction needs to be completely eradicated, and they're like really extreme. Or they go, well, it's inevitable, it's going to happen, and serve those women right anyway. And you know what? I really would like to be a cyborg and colonize Mars. Like, yeah. Literally every single one of them will say that. None of you, it's like a prerequisite. And it's like a weird brain virus where, like how Elon talks about the woke mind virus. It's the same sort of thing. Like, you need to sort of buy into that on some level for you to be an MRA and in the manosphere. Yeah.
I mean, it's women's fault that they can't go to Mars. I mean, it's not that the radiation and the soil is just absolutely unusable for anybody, but yeah, go ahead, kings. Like, come on, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just messing.
No, I know, and I'm just saying that there's a direct. I used to have this argument with someone from Honey Badger Radio, which I was involved with, and those guys are still around. And the woman that runs that, Alison Team, bless her, I've had arguments with her before because I know her from when I did work with them, and I've tried to explain to her that gynocentrism theory is wrong, and she's just like, don't compute. And I'm like, what do you think about this transhumanism stuff, lady? And she is like, yeah. It's just like it's not. I've seen so much written of open ed pieces about the men's rights movement and manosphere from all angles, and I'm not saying that nobody's written about it. I'm sure they have, but I haven't seen this direct link of saying, hey, hang on a minute, maybe it was kind of technocratic minded transhumanist types who thought, the grievances between men and women that always exist to some degree, let's just ramp that up a bit. Let's just increase that. Because you know what? We're going to create techno-feudalism in the future. We know that we're in late-stage capitalism. We know that making money in the perpetual growth model is probably going to fail at some point. We need to move into a social credit system. Because we want to colonize Mars and space. We need everyone to buy into that. And we especially need young men to buy into that. We need young men to buy into this idea that becoming a cyborg is a good thing.
Right? Well, and what better way to capitalize on it than use bitterness and resentment?
Right.
And plus, okay, this will actually go back to Seraphim Rose, actually, because funny enough, Orthodox in the Future of Religion, because in there he talks about how bitterness and resentment, they're going to start to use it because the devil wants to. Ultimately, the devil can bring people together, but it's all to destroy you. And what is bitterness? What does that all do to you? It destroys you. It destroys your soul. It makes you less than Christ because you're holding on to all this bitterness, and which is all a result of sin.
Right. Yeah.
So it transforms you out of theosis into demonosis or demonification. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that you brought that up because
you can make that connection quite quickly. Yeah. And so like, I've been a bit sloppy sometimes. I've been like, oh, that's because you're transhumanist.
Haven't we all?
People have said to me and been like, oh, you can't just call that person transhumanist. I'm like, no, this is a polemic. I understand that isn't necessarily. It's like when you say, oh, women are feminists, right? Yeah. And I'm like, the culture at this point, the foundation is this is what we're doing. We're becoming transhumanist, right? We're becoming. They want us to become they. I say they. We're all participating in something, right? But like as I said, I allowed myself to go into conspiratorial land a little bit here. I don't just do it that way. It's like a tendency we have to do this because we're fallen and we want God, or feel like, we think we can control reproduction and creation. Like, this is what humans do. It's not a surprise. It's just this particular like era that we're in now. We seem to be reaching, because we're going through this technological revolution, we seem to be reaching a sort of cliffhanger point edge of it, where it's like, where are we going to do? Where are we going to go from now? And I kind of got into this whole thing where I was like, hang on a minute. The Handmaid's Tale stuff is kind of interesting, because how do you get to that point of going, okay, it's a good idea to completely like deperson women and just try and do artificial wombs, cloning, surrogacy leads us there, all of that. Like, Handmaid's Tale would be a transition stage. I'm not saying that it would be that extreme, but this kind of like idea that we need to breed for a duty as kind of feudalistic slave types, and also this idea that men make better women sort of slides in there for me, because Andrew Tate legitimately said that a few times. I know that he could argue he's being polemical or whatever, but no, if you talk to a lot of these reactionary types who buy into transhumanism and are right wing online, and they literally will say, yeah, it probably would be a good thing if we just had men, like women were like men, but they had the parts of a woman.
Yeah, it's like, is it gay to like women? It's like that weird stuff.
Yeah, and the Groyters are the best example of this, because they are all like, oh yeah, I've got what they call them,
femboys.
Femboys, right? Yeah, and they're all in, and I think it's very interesting that Nick Fuentes calls himself a Christian futurist. Futurism is associated with transhumanism, even if not always. It can be vague, and so does Andrew Wilson, right?
Yeah,
Andrew Wilson has said before, he was like, oh, that just means I'm, progressive in the sense that I'm looking to the future. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then you're going to say that I'm a feminist because I think women should have some dignity. Or you'll say to me, you don't know what that means. And I say to you, hold yourself to the term that you're using for yourself. Same, it's just this weird spell casting with terms and words, right? They know what they're doing with that. That's all I'm saying. Like, when it's almost, again, going into conspiratorial land, where it's like, you're saying, I'm a Christian futurist. What does that mean to one person and to another? Yeah. It means, right? So it's very, very sneaky and clever. It's really clever. And
they're getting funded by a lot of these people too. So, it is, directly or indirectly, they are getting funded by tech bros and all this other stuff. And that's a fact.
Wesley Peter Field, who sweats in every interview he does, who claims that we are living in a matriarchal panopticon, while he creates a matriarchal panopticon. He would probably say it's androcentric and patriarchal, but think about it. He's just like a Bond villain, where he tells you what he's doing, but accuses everyone else of it. That's what he's doing. And also, in that interview he did where he's talking about the Antichrist, he said that Orthodox Christianity is compatible with transhumanism. And I was like, oh, hell no.
It's not.
I was like, there's one thing for you to fund Christian nationalism, the MAGA movement, right, which he has been, and like mentor J.D. Vance from being a hillbilly to being a VP president or whatever, right? And fund most of the far-right movement, either directly or indirectly, in the last 10, 15 years or whatever, right? It's one thing for you to do that. It's another for you to then claim that Orthodox Christianity is on board with you. I was furious when I saw that. I was like, no, I can't deal. And he seems to be into Russian cosmism. Have you heard of that? That makes sense, right?
It makes sense. I haven't really dived into that, obviously, but yeah,
do you know what it is?
Cosmism?
Russian cosmism.
It's basically a heretical form of Orthodox Christianity that claims that we can be transhumanist and Orthodox.
So it's like cosmic. It's like Gnostic orthodoxy.
Yeah, it's like, it's all the tech bro stuff.
We should
colonize space. We should be cyborgs, live in the cloud computer.
Yeah.
Have
that's what I thought it was.
Huh?
That's what I thought it was when you said cosmos. I was like, it sounds like the people that's like, oh, if I mentally ascend high enough, I can go into the next plane of existence and become a transhuman cyborg, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they found. I have read into it, but maybe this is something I need to go into more depth in another time to talk about. But they may be making arguments, because one of the things I've spoken about in my videos is how in the West we have the ontology of mind, body, soul most of the time, and in Orthodoxy it's body, soul, spirit. And how one of the things I like about Orthodoxy is its firm stance on embodiment, right? Maybe that stuff does try to bring embodiment into it, because it can't not if it's trying to be Orthodox. But that, I don't. It really freaked me out, and I'm really concerned to see how he's gonna, because he did these lectures recently, and I haven't seen what he said in them so much yet, because I'm following a little bit what he's up to, because I definitely referenced him. My theory is that he definitely has been he. I have no proof. To anyone listening to this is just me speculating, but it's just to do with all the connections and stuff that I've made. Is that like this whole gynocentrism theory stuff? I wouldn't be surprised if he and Peter Wright are buddies or something, because the way that Peter Wright talks, if you follow his account and you've seen some of the stuff he's written, he talks like he's a tech bro. He talks a lot about legacy media and how we need to look to the future. He is a computer programmer, right? We know that much about him. And when I was an MRA and I used to go to Speaker's Corner, I encountered this guy called Ralph. He was like a British Indian guy. I don't remember if he was half English or British and Indian, or just British born and Indian descent, right? But ancestry. But he was a computer programmer, and he came into Speaker's Corner and invaded, or the alt-right at the time. So he joined the Patriotic Alternative with what is the name of the guy who runs Patriotic Alternative? Mark. I haven't brain fog today. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, people can work that out. He joined them and he became their data manager, right? And his whole thing was that, like Dominic Cummings had done with Brexit, where they'd done a lot of online using Cambridge Analytica and doing a lot of algorithm manipulation. And I don't know if you remember all of that stuff. There was this big deal made about how Brexit was one of the first political campaigns that really utilized AI, basically.
Yeah.
And that was because of Dominic Cummings, who is also part of this tech bro cabal, who wants the UK to be ran by an AI supercomputer instead of having parliament. But anyway, I digress. Ralph said that he's mates with Dominic Cummings and Elon Musk. Now, I don't remember him mentioning Peter Thiel, but they are in the same circles, and Peter Thiel is part of this weird cult. He basically he was doing a YouTube channel at the time, and he was calling himself reactionary right wing. He was called Neo Reaction or something.
Yeah.
And he said, "I am an esoteric technologist who just so happens to be Christian." So me and my friend at the time, he used to be into MRA stuff. He used to debate people. He was like, "Wait, you're a transhumanist?" And he was like, "Oh no, I'm not I can't call myself that. No." And I went, No, you should debate us. We'll debate you about this." And he was like, "Oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And then he just went disappear off the scene at some point and never heard from again. And I think that he he joined in to just basically extract all this data from these right wingers and then pissed off. And it was so clear that he was like a shady agent. And he was what the thing is, he was telling us that. And this was the time when everybody was starting to, on the right wing, was going, Curtis Yarvin, Menashe Moldberg blogs and the cathedral thing is so cool and interesting and meh, 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 meh. And I was just like, what is wrong with you people? I thought you were nationalists. I thought you cared about your people, your ethnos. Like, why are you embracing running your country like a Silicon Valley corporation? And that blew my mind at the time. That helped me become less right wing, because I was like, I am not on your side whatsoever. Yeah. Okay. How I think all of this connects together, I really truly think that they genuinely made sure that some of these manosphere blogs online were getting traction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I think that I genuinely think there is a genuine Kabbalistic conspiracy with those guys, because at the time you had Tumblr feminism, liberal feminism, everybody getting annoyed with that because it was clearly kind of shallow and radfem wasn't really the thing that people knew about. And then you had that versus Manosphere Red Pill, let's read Chateau Hertiste and Rushby and whatever and all be edgy, like it was. Thinking about it now, you could see these two parallel.
You can see that happening because, like, I mean, the Epstein files. You read that stuff, you're like, oh crap! Like Epstein and Ghislaine were like doing this stuff. Like they were going online and making like.
Right. Yes, we know that now.
I mean, we know
that now.
Like
we know that Epstein was like, yes, fund the far right online, 4chan, like.
I mean, yes. So it's not a like stretch to be like, yeah, this seems like it could have been like they were trying to do a psyop to like make people do certain things they wanted to do. So
right.
Yeah, I can completely.
Yeah. And this is where I'm going to bring in what it is that I talk about on X a lot now, right? So remember, the gynocentrism theory is like, women were not expected to be Christ-like. Women were not held accountable in the way that men were. Women need to pull up their big girl panties and be like men, be like Christ. Yeah, take on that sacrifice, right? That's the position on that side. Then you've got Christian fundamentalists on the Christian right, and I'm not saying that everybody's a conservative and is a Christian, like the Baptists or whatever.
Yeah.
But the ones who have really embraced Christian nationalism, and I know that's not majority of Christians. Honestly, I really want those people to hear me when I say that. I know that you guys don't all necessarily agree with this, but politically you align yourself with republicanism, MAGA, then unfortunately you end up under the tentacles of this octopus. Okay. And so like it's the same thing that happened on the left, where most people who vote Democrat are just trying to get some good healthcare, but then they have a bunch of like different groups influencing them, corporatists and Marxists fighting it out, like whatever. Okay, same thing, but on the right. And you have Doug Wilson, and his weirdo heretical theology, really weird.
They're very weird.
When I tell people about this, they're like, oh, I just like how he spoke about this and he doesn't like feminists and how he does his stupid cigar in No Quarter November. And I'm like, that was cringe, but okay, you do you. But like, when I really got to know what eternal subordination of the Son was, I was like, there is no. How are these conservatives like saying a lot of what?
Because
for those of you that don't know what that is, basically, Doug Wilson is like one of the major players in Christian nationalism. His theology and his books and his domination, homeschooling, mini empire, canon press, and all of that. It's kind of gone around and infected by a lot of these conservative characters. And I say that word purposely because people I know and people I've spoken to online who've told me about how they work and how they grow their influence is they literally go to churches, send a few people in, and then they like cause discord and then take over the committees of churches and stuff. Like that's happened. That's how they grow things. Christ Church. And his theology says that Christ is the eternal, the feminine in eternal subordination to God the Father, the masculine. So first of all, he's inserted a hierarchy in the Trinity that shouldn't be there, which we know is a no-no. And then second of all, he's using feminine and masculine, not in like, oh, we could say some attributes of God are like feminine and masculine because we are made in the image of God, and therefore, even though we know God's not got a gender, that's kind of on a symbolic level that you can do when you're talking about Trinity or God, or maybe. But like, he actually does it in a very concrete way, so concrete that like it ends up being, if you read his book about marriage called The Marriage Covenant, it ends up being that the wife is the one who is expected to be like Christ. And the husband is expected to be like God the Father, just authority in some kind of amorphous form.
It's a weird Nestorian. It's gonna be a weird Nestorian kind of, because that was the entire neo-reformed movement back in like 2010s, which I was in actually for a while.
Right. Okay.
Like Mark Driscoll and all them, if you remember them.
Well, I didn't know back then. I wasn't into it back then, but I know who Mark Driscoll is, unfortunately, now, because I had to study it to understand it. And I know who the Theo bros are.
You would have called them before Jordan Peterson. There was Mark Driscoll out there doing similar stuff, like, except he was a pastor, and then he destroyed his own church. But you used to have like the bro reformed kind of stuff. This was a long time ago, in the long ago time for the little Gen Zers watching, or if there were any. It's funny how all of those movements have just been coming together like that. And so anyways.
Sorry, I'm being interrupted by the 2-year-old.
It's okay. 2-year-old.
I will make sure his face is not on the stream, because I don't know if you know how you've got the rules about live streams, and
I try to avoid that if possible too.
Yes, I absolutely want to make sure, but because he is wanting to be with his mama, and it's he's saying to Daddy, "I don't want to be with you. I want to be with Mama," which is fair enough. Anyway, so I know you know about all of that stuff, and I think that, again, most conservative Christian types are just your bog standard classical Trinitarian, Baptist, or whatever. But then they're like, oh, I feel like I have to react to the woke Democrat, and so I'm going to listen to Doug Wilson, and I'm going to listen to Mark Driscoll, the rest of them, and the Theobro types, and then they end up aligning with them politically because they feel they have to. And they don't necessarily investigate the theology that these people are aligning themselves with. Then you've got William Wolfe and Stephen Wolfe, who wrote the Christian Nationalist Manifesto that Doug Wilson published, Case of Christian Nationalism and all of that. And that's a whole other rabbit hole that goes into like white nationalism, ethnic nationalism. But like that stuff about the eternal subordination of the Son, then I realized that it's not just bog standard misogyny, which I think has always been present in humanity. But this is again, Peter Wright, of the conclusion of his theory is women need to be more like Christ. Women need to atone for not being like Christ.
Right.
They need to pull their big girl panties up and be like Christ. Yeah? I mean, he's not religious, but he's essentially using Christ as an argument.
Right.
He says that women were placed on a pedestal, men were supposed to be the white knights through chivalrous expectations, centering women at the expense of men. Men were like women's serfs. Like, that's what he claimed. And then the result is women have to be like Christ. And then you've got Doug Wilson's theology saying women have to be like Christ. Men don't have to be like Christ.
So weird.
And I'm like, oh, look, they've reached the same conclusion.
Isn't that weird?
Straussian. Don't you think that's a bit Straussian? Like,
yeah,
like, you're using a modernist framed lens movement to like get to your political aims. And they both, they both seem to be saying that women need to be like Christ. And there's this weird form of gender inversion going on here, which actually cosplays as being traditionalist. So it's like, okay, you need to have your trad wife who's making sourdough, wearing a sundress, popping out loads of kids, but she's not allowed to be just a woman, a person who's a woman, right?
Yeah.
What is a woman? Okay. She has to be kind of this weird, stoic-like person, who performs her femininity.
Yeah.
So I really got a sense of this when I read Tia Leving's book, because Tia Leving's A Well-Trained Wife, you should read it. Okay, it's good. It's well written. Be prepared to get into, the mind of what it's like being in an abusive marriage of somebody going to one of these fundamentalist churches. She does go to Doug Wilson church.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. When I pastored, oh my God, I can tell you. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, so she really brings you into that, where she talks about all the books that train the women. Created to Be His Help Me, like the Pearl, Debbie Pearl, and I don't remember what her husband's called, the Pearls. And those, there are loads of those books, but like that's one of the ones. And she talks about how you literally like MK Ultra yourself out of being just who you are. You're not just a person who happens to be a woman. Those two things are interwoven. Yeah, your soul's in your body. You're a woman. You're a person, right? And how that expresses itself, it's unique to you, but you're still a woman. Those two things are co-equal, right? That's how I view it. And she really does a good job of showing how you have to like deconstruct your personhood from your womanhood. You're not allowed to really be a woman in a vulnerable way, like you can't complain about having a period every month. You can't do that. You have to put on your big girl panties and deconstruct all of that, and then put on this persona of what it means to be a perfect trad wife who is emotionally regulating your husband, but at the same time you have expected to have no autonomy.
Yeah, isn't that bizarre? Like it's a bizarre form of postmodernist thought going on there, where it's just like okay, the woman has to be like, she has to put up with not just her toddlers, but the man is also a toddler apparently, because he can't regulate himself. He has no ability to do anything for himself. He can't fold clothes and do laundry, and oh man, he's just so pathetic.
Yeah, and the way they talk about the man's emotions, his emotional state, and sex is it's really insulting to men. That's what I read. I was like, man, this is insulting. Like, if I thought about my husband that way, like I would think this is gross. I don't know why men would want to be that way. And I actually don't think most of them do.
I don't think so.
They like the idea of a trad wife, but they don't quite get that this particular theology, the fruits of it, how it comes out on people, it encourages them, especially if they already like that. So in Tia Leving's case, her husband was abusive, and then this theology and this church culture just made it worse, right? That's what it does. People already have their dysfunction and their brokenness. And then also some people who are so impressionable end up becoming tipped away by it over too, right? In a culty kind of way. So I'm just saying that these two, it makes sense to me that the tech bro transhumanist types who don't really like women, okay, because they want us to colonize Mars, and those darn feminists are getting in the way. Right? Those guys, they would sponsor Christian nationalist guys, weird modernist, semi-Aryan, UK historian as well, version of Christianity, which basically like accepts capitalism and this modernist way of looking at things, and it shouldn't, but it does. And it makes sense that those two come to the same conclusion. The woman is to be like Christ, and there's this gender inversion going on. And I'm just like, you guys understand that you're complaining about the left woke trans stuff, blah blah blah, right? It's the same thing on your side of the fence. You've got
They're
the same
modernist. Yeah,
foundation.
they're modernist too. They're not trad. They're modernist also. Like
Right.
this whole Father Stephen DeYoung and Father Andrew, they brought this up actually one podcast where they were like, well, actually, what y'all are talking about is also modernist. And
Right.
it triggered the crap out of everybody. They were like, how dare you? Oh my gosh. It's like, yeah, like you are though. You are a modernist. Like it's time to just get a grip on reality and like admit like you are, if you really do believe this, you are a modernist.
Right.
You are
But this is
just
the
as
thing. The thing as
postmodernist as
well is
everybody
that
else.
they don't seem to have really connected the dots that, although some of them do online, to be fair, because I know a lot about the right wing scene,
Yeah.
is that they can only have this kind of traditional sense of thing in relation to feudalism or some kind of traditional hierarchy that's more feudalistic
Or this
in relation to
1950s
the
view.
church.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, and we don't exist in that now so much, although we're getting there again. So that makes sense because they want us to get there again. The tech bros want us to be like that again. And like the East like probably does
Well,
too.
and isn't that a funny thing too? Like I was just thinking about this too. Like we're kind of going backwards, and now like the words of Christ and Paul, they come back to haunt us again. Where Paul is going, "Hey, husbands, love your wife as Christ loves the church." And back then, if you know first century context, Paul is a freaking radical feminist, like for saying that, because these men are like, what? I have to love my wife? I thought she was just an object for my sexual blah 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 to have kids and all that. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's literally a rehash of history going on where they're like, Lance is saying this today. Well, Paul was saying this, and now they're saying the same thing. Paul, you're a radical feminist, you jerk. And then now today, if
You know
Lance
why
says
my
that,
friend loves Paul? That's why we love Paul, because we're
yeah,
like, everyone hates Paul. But we
yeah,
love Paul. Like, it's really, no, you're right. And that's why I have my little stupid thing that I say on X where I say, yes, remember, Adam ate the fruit willfully, and his will is what we healing first in man. That means, I mean, I'm not saying that women don't have will, but Adam is supposed to lead by his redemption, by his example. That
yes.
means being willing to die in some way, die to oneself, but also maybe physically, like as a martyr or something, And
But that's the tradition
yeah,
too, is that
yes,
that
that is
Adam,
tradition.
I mean,
That is literally the tradition.
yeah, that's the tradition, is that Adam died willingly because he knew that Eve was going to die. So he was going to die with her because he loved her. And like that is part of our tradition in the Orthodox Church, is why Adam did that. That's why Christ is the second Adam, because he willingly went to die on the cross so that he could redeem man and women.
Right.
Like, but and yeah, I mean, it always comes back around, right?
To the same thing, that same.
Yeah. So I don't know if this might be a good closing spot, maybe. But I'm gonna read the comments because I always read the comments if I have them. So
I apologize for my technical difficulties. But
oh
just,
no, you're
I'm not used to
fine.
doing this in my mother-in-law's house.
No, you're fine. It happens. It's not a big deal. So let's see. The comments say Janacita says the hatred from Protestants against the Theotokos is not based. I agree. It doesn't matter if she was a virgin or not after Jesus was born, but they pick at the small things to hate. Yeah, I agree. Like the Protestants that do that, that's pretty bad. They Protestants in general, some of them are good about the Theotokos, but yeah, they need to have more respect for the Theotokos. I agree. Let's see. I think that many Protestants think that they think that our Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox Church teach that Mary has power aside from intercession. It's a lot of misunderstandings. I agree with that. Let's see. Also, many Protestants react more to Roman Catholic traditions, not necessarily what the church teaches, but culture, not Eastern Orthodox. I kind of agree, but I maybe I'd say some caveats there, maybe. Says Andrew and Rachel are a sad representation of Eastern Orthodoxy. Do not follow them for it. I agree, actually. I completely agree with that. So these men need lots of prayers so that they repent and learn the proper Christian ways. Yes, I agree. That is absolutely, positively, 100% true. So do women, but yeah, on this particular men do for sure. They think Christianity is only inside a building, and they forget that we are the salt and need to carry ourselves everywhere as Christians. That's the best witness to produce the best fruits. Completely agree. Any woman who pushes back against some injustice or abuse is called a feminist in this culture. It's an attempt to silence women. I agree. I do agree. Like in general, I would agree. That's a general statement, like I would say, but I agree with that. Even in the Christian body, especially in the Protestant churches, I'm gonna be nice to the Protestants. I don't think a lot of them actually, if they're serious about their faith, I don't think that they would agree with some of the stuff. Like if you actually educate everybody on this stuff, like I think it's about the same for Orthodox and Catholics that it is Protestants.
Oh, the grass ain't greener. I know that much.
Yeah. So let's see what else. I feel sad for the Protestant brothers and sisters that believe Doug and are under a spell. Yeah, I agree. Doug is kind of
I have mercy on them. I know some people
Doug's
that
a
are
freak. I'll say it. Doug's a freak. I've listened to stuff that Doug has said before, and even when I was reformed, I was like, that guy's a freak. Like this was years ago. I read his stuff, and I was like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? Is he on crack? Is he drunk? What like? Who wrote this book? Like that's my opinion, anyways. So that's okay. She says, "Sorry, I hoarded the comments." That's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind comments because I don't get a lot on my channel lately. So I appreciate anybody that puts a good comment on there. So I'm gonna just close this off with thank you all for watching this podcast with us, and I thank Natty for coming on, and I'm going to have her on some more. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. We'll plan some more podcasts out because I like talking to Natty. I like making jokes about her accent, and she might get better at Texan impressions. She might be like, howdy, folks. We could do a whole impression podcast. Be like, hi, everybody. How you doing? You know, I don't know. We could try all sorts of fun stuff here. So anyways, guys, thank you. If you like this podcast, hit like and subscribe. And I'm going to give a collab with Natty here too. So hit like and subscribe to her too and follow her too because she's got good content. So that's it. That's all, folks. But I'll give any closing thought that you want to give, Natty. Do you have anything you want?
The only thing I was going to say is, I'm be welcome to love to come and speak to you again, so we can go into more detail about certain things we brought in there for sure. But like, if anyone wants to go to my channel, the video I did about paternalism in the patriarchy, I really think people should watch that. I'm quite proud.
That's a good one.
That one, because I just think that we transfigure the patriarchy, right? There's always going to be a patriarchy.
I know I'm not using it in strictly the feminist sense. I mean just the rule of men, right? We have a male-only clergy, and they want to be Christ-like. A Christ-like patriarchy is what we're aiming for, what men want to aim for, I think. And I'm not somebody that's trying to take that away from men. I think that men need to go over there to their little island over there and have a little fight, like Fight Club. Not necessarily in a physical sense, but maybe in a physical sense. I just mean like, go over there, sort yourselves out, work out who's top dog again, and who you want to die for everyone else, maybe. I don't know, if you're Christian. Yeah, right?
And stop trying to get us women to regulate it somehow, because like we need to do our own thing. We will support you, but we're not here to be your mummy or your, you know, your sexy lady or whatever. Like we also are persons. And I think a lot of the stuff you see online about how men feel emasculated or some this or that, the status anxiety, the men make better women thing, the spiritually homo stuff I was talking about, a lot of it to me is just men like needing to sort of just go over there and create and be paternal with each other.
Yeah,
And, like,
I think
just
that's
work
true.
it out amongst yourselves, and that's I fully support that. I don't want to have anything to do with it. In a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. I might say it in a hyperbolic way sometimes, but I mean it like,
you guys really need to go and sort your own stuff out. Like,
stop looking to us. We have our own problems, but we can support you from a distance. Isn't that what you want?
Yeah, they need that for sure. I don't know that I have that problem, to be totally honest. I
wouldn't say so.
I get told that sometimes. We're like, why are you not like us? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like I like to take care of my chickens and do all sorts of like guy stuff by myself or with other people, and I don't really think about all this crap. like I just treat women with respect, and I just try to be like Christ. Like, it's not that hard. It's not really that hard, and I try not to be bitter or resentful about my past or anything like that. Like, oh no, it's like I'm talking to, like, they're just like, this is a profound experience. Who is this guy? And I'm like, I guess I should be the new Jordan Peterson. I just gotta start talking like, hello everybody.
Unfortunately, still believes the.
I gotta be the new good Jordan Peterson with the voice. Go, hello, my name is Lance Conley, and I'm gonna tell you about how to be a man. Anyways,
unfortunately, like Lance Lazarus, I do think you got. You don't have to stay there, but you know.
Well, wait, what do I have? I'm sorry, it cut out for a second.
I think that, you know, I was saying about men going over there to that island. I do think you've got to go.
You're gonna send me to the island to be.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to actually go up there and be like, "Hello, everybody. My name is Lance Conley, and I'm here to be the new Jordan Peterson for you. Hello, God bless you, and
yes,
pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, you son of a gun." There we go. I guess I'm going to be sent to the island. If Natty's in charge, she's sending me to the island, folks. I'm just kidding.
No, that's the point.
She's like, I don't want to be in charge.
I don't want to be in charge.
I'm just messing.
Problem, please.
I'm just messing, but
yeah, but seriously, that was a good impression. Well done.
Thank you. I've been working on Jordan Peterson for a long time. That one's my favorite, honestly. All right, well, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, and God bless, and have a great week and weekend. So,
yeah, Pascha this weekend. So,
all right, we will talk later.
All right, take care. God bless. Bye bye.